This is the news on 92.3 Nigeria Info.
Welcome back. Now, the rest of the news. President Bola Tinubu says Nigeria is using a new carbon market to raise $2.5 billion to $3 billion every year for the next 10 years to fight climate change. Speaking at the 2026 Abu Dhabi Sustainability Week on Tuesday, he says the country has set up rules and systems to track and reduce carbon emissions, including the National Carbon Market Activation Policy and the National Carbon Registry. President Tinubu also stated that the 2023 Electricity Act, which is helping provide electricity in rural communities, schools, health centers, markets, and other areas that don't have enough power. Tinubu says the government is modernizing Nigeria's energy system to bring sustainable electricity to these places. And now, to ensure security, the United States has delivered military supplies to Nigerian security agencies to support ongoing operations in the country. The United States Africa Command announced the delivery in a post on X on Tuesday. The federal government had earlier revealed that the United States is ready to strengthen security cooperation with Nigeria by providing more intelligence support, defense equipment, and other resources to support the fight against terrorist and violent extremist groups. And in business, the National Bureau of Statistics has announced that it will release two different inflation figures for December. According to a Bloomberg report, this follows changes to the Consumer Price Index method, which caused the headline inflation rate to rise sharply. Nigeria's inflation data is closely watched by the Central Bank of Nigeria, which is moving toward an inflation targeting policy. The CBN has already considered the CPI rebasing in its three-year inflation forecast and is aiming to reduce inflation by about 13% next year. Bloomberg, citing sources at the MBS, reported that the December inflation data to be released on January 15 is expected to show a sharp jump to 31.2% compared to 14.5% in November. And now news from the international scene. The BBC is planning to ask a court to dismiss a lawsuit filed by US President Donald Trump over the editing of his January 6, 2021 speech in Panorama documentary. Trump filed a $5 billion lawsuit in Florida courts last month, accusing the BBC of defamation and violating a trade practices law. However, court documents filed on Monday show the BBC will argue that the Florida court has no authority over it, that the case was filed in the wrong venue, and that Trump has not shown a valid legal claim. The BBC has already apologized for the edits but rejected Trump's demand for compensation and denies that the program was defamatory. The broadcaster also says a Panorama documentary was not aired in the United States and did not harm Trump's reputation. And that's the news. Just before we go, here are the major headlines. You heard that the former IPOC chairman Peter Ame has called APC's support for Governor Siminalayi Fubara artificial. We also told you that the security analyst has urged the police to go beyond prima facie evidence in investigating cases. You heard that President Bola Tinubu has announced that the carbon market will fund climate action and rural electricity. We reported that the US has delivered military supplies to Nigeria, and on the foreign scene, the BBC is seeking the dismissal of President Donald Trump's $5 billion defamation lawsuit. And that's the news as edited by Ifunanya Obemendukwe. To reach the news team, send an SMS or WhatsApp message to 0808 721 7215. I am Okey Onwugbonu. Good evening and many thanks for listening.